So as Lauren mentioned, I'd like to introduce the idea of the ePortfolio and really how this initiative came about. And it goes back several years to when discussion was happening around online classes and also a senior culminating project. There were lots of ideas about what a senior culminating project would look like, but all of them that were proposed required a great deal of time and effort and really didn't seem feasible in the short term. An ePortfolio, however, seemed much more practical, doable, and really beneficial for our students in the 21st century, where they are today. So we decided to pilot an ePortfolio program last year in 2011-2012 with the English and Theology Frosh classes and see how that went. And how it started was in Tech Camp. And so you can see on the Tech Camp page right now that this is actually on day 4. There are 4 days of Tech Camp. And on day 4, one of the activities they do is set up their Google site. And their Google site serves as the container for their ePortfolio. It is where their work is stored. So Frosh watched this video, and then they actually go to their Google sites and create a Google site. You're looking at a sample Google site that I've created. It's very basic. We ask that students create left-hand navigation, so they set up their years. In this example, I started in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and then they fill in the disciplines. Now, last year, only English and Theology Frosh classes were included in this program. This year, we'd like to invite all disciplines in the Frosh and sophomore classes to partake in this initiative. So as you might imagine, over the course of 4 years, as the disciplines are added within each year, and artifacts, the work itself, student work itself, is added, it becomes a very comprehensive look at one's learning over time. And students are able to see trends in their learning and really identify strengths in their learning as well as challenges and weaknesses. There are 4 core components to an ePortfolio, and the first one is student ownership. Students choose what work of theirs they are uploading to their ePortfolio. It is not a matter of a teacher saying, this was your best work, you got an A or a B+ on this, this should go in your ePortfolio. It's really the student choosing what work best represents their learning. They may find that the greatest growth they've made is when they got a C+, because they were able to recognize and learn from their mistakes. The second component is reflection. Students reflect on their learning. They reflect on the growth that has taken place. Students reflect on every artifact they upload. So there is a reflection accompanying every piece of work they choose to include in their ePortfolio. And Dave Prisk talked about this aspect with me earlier this year, and I really liked how he articulated it. He said that students really struggle to talk about themselves, and they need to be able to learn how to talk about themselves by the time they're a senior, because they have college interviews, and they need to be able to articulate their strengths and weaknesses. And this reflection is an exercise in such. And the third component of an ePortfolio has to do with an authentic audience. Students are creating work that can no longer be put on a fridge because it's usually online and it's multimedia oftentimes. So with the Google site, students have the ability to share the link to their ePortfolio with anyone they choose. We encourage them to keep it private, but with the option to share the link with family and friends. We think that this is a strong motivator, and it helps students feel that others are invested in their work, not just their teacher. The fourth core component of the ePortfolio is the idea that it is a connection to learning outcomes, specifically our ESLers. We often talk about how can we better connect our students to the ESLers, and this is a great way. Students in their reflection will discuss how their learning relates to achieved ESLers. And so I'd now like to turn it over to Dave Prisk, Nicole McGowan, and James Hannon, who will briefly state why they think the ePortfolio program is very beneficial to our students.
So the electronic portfolio program, I think, provides Moreau a great opportunity to be able to structure and support some very focused, organized reflection on the part of students about their ESLer achievement. It really gives them a chance across all curriculum to consider their growth in the ESLers, but also to take ownership of that growth and really think about the ways in which they're becoming a more capable and productive member of their society.
I think the ePortfolio is really useful in that kids take ownership of their own work. They get to decide what they think is their best work. It's not what I told them is their best work. It's what they are most proud of. And to be able to reflect on what they did well and what they can improve on, and to go through that process over 4 years, I think will be very beneficial by the time they're a senior.
So I started ePortfolios with my freshman last year, and I thought it went really well. Because we're trying to introduce 21st century skills to the freshmen or try and use them in the classroom. And I noticed that a lot of them used it really well, trying to reflect on specific assignments that went really well or really poorly for them. So by doing this, they had time to think about those assignments that went really well or think about those assignments that didn't go really well and write about what went well and what didn't go well. And that provided me with a great tool for me as a teacher to understand what assignments worked well for students overall and what assignments didn't go so well, and how maybe I need to change my methods as a teacher to make sure that that assignment is successful. It also helped because I noticed that there were some assignments that maybe I didn't put too much emphasis on, yet the kids really enjoyed it. So maybe I need to put more attention on that assignment because it's something that a lot of kids are paying attention to. So I think the ePortfolio program works very much for the kids as well as the teacher. So right now it's really early to see what trends in their learning that they can notice, but this really is an investment in their learning. They will be able to see after the 4 years what they've done, and it's going to be right there in front of them. Unlike when we were going to school, we had these folders that we carried around in our garage. These are something that they can look at from 10 years from now and say, this is what I've done and this is the learning that's happened over the past 4 years.